First of all, I happen to be a Christian. Some of you may not be, but I happen to be a Christian, okay? So when you say prayer to me, and I'm always very suspicious, you know, well, who are we praying to? You know, what is this prayer about? So I always had some interest in the Mary Stewart prayer. And as I came into the organization and I started to say the prayer, I understood where it was coming from. But I have to give credit to Cheryl Hughes. Cheryl, are you in the room? She must have stepped out, but she is the chaplain, the regional chaplain, and she's the one that we had a conversation about this prayer. And she said this to me. She says, in order for me to say this prayer, I have to understand the prayer. And so she actually went through this prayer and lined up scriptures along with it. So based with that, you know, my original interest, I got together with my basilisk and we put this presentation together. And it had such a warm reception. And it actually, you know, had to change my behavior because I cannot tell you this and not exhibit the same things myself, right? So it kind of makes me be right, you know, in a sense. So now we have a thing between me and my basilisk. We look at each other, we say MSP. When we getting ready to be out of pocket, MSP. So I want you to look at your neighbor and say, MSP. So when you start to hear some complaining during this thing, look at your person and say, MSP. Yes. With Mary Stewart. Yes. Right. All right? Yes. All right. So MSP. All right, so you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So our objectives are, we're going to be able to state the origin of the Mary Stewart prayer, understand the impact of our personal behavior in group settings, and state 2 effects that judgment has on individual members. Next slide. So Mary Stewart was an actual person, and a white lady at that.
Oh,
okay? And she wrote this, she was born in 1876, but she grew up in Georgetown, Colorado, high up in the Rockies, and she was a principal of a school. And she was described as a little bundle of energy, dignity, and personal charm. And it was while she was a principal that she called it a collect. The prayer was originally called a collect. And she wrote this, and it's been used by women's institutes and other organizations around the world as their creed. She died in 1943 at the age of 67. So when I look at that, I thought, well, we were put together in 1932, right? So this means that our founders, our jewels, must have seen this prayer and thought, this fits us. And this is something that we want to build ourselves on. Now, although we are not a Christian organization per se, we were built on Christian principles. And because this is a prayer, you know, and I am a minister, so if I go into the preaching thing, stop me, you know, but it's gonna have to creep in there, okay? Next slide. So the prayer was written in about 1904, and she Mary Stewart served in a number of positions. She was Dean of Women at the University of Montana. She was Assistant Director of the U.S. Employment Service, and this lady had a full career, but she mostly dealt with women's, and she dealt with women clubs. Next slide. So it was written as a prayer for the day. She called it the Collect for Club Women because she felt that women working together with wide interests and for large ends was a new thing under the sun. And she knew that with women, we have particular things in our personalities that can kind of go into the gossiping thing, kind of go into the nitpicking thing. But she wanted the women to get together to be effective in whatever organization they were working in. Next slide. So, why is it important for us to understand this prayer? Why it is important? I mean, we can say it by rote. Some of us, we still recite it with a little card on the side. Some of us know it by heart, you know, but do we really understand what we're saying? Are we just saying things at the beginning of our meeting and then immediately petty.com begins? Yes. As soon as we say, keep us, O Lord, then petty starts it, all right? So we have to understand that our founders ascribed to the tenets of this prayer. They thought that it was important enough that they wanted to start every meeting, every chapter meeting with this prayer. It was adopted by Chi Phi sorority to be said before all business meetings, and it was written to address women and their communication. Next slide. So, we're going to go through this prayer line by line. And really dig into it. Some of them I put in scripture references, some of them I didn't, but we're going to dig into this. So the first part, keep us, O God, from pettiness. Now what does pettiness mean? Pettiness means undue concern with trivial matters, especially of a small-minded or spiteful nature. Example, the sheer pettiness of the officials was quite startling. It also could mean there's a lack of importance or worth. It's something very trivial. That's what pettiness is. So when we're looking at things that we need to address in our meetings at whatever level that we're dealing in, we have to ask ourselves, is what I'm asking a petty thing? Is it something that's really going to make a big difference? Or is it something that's really important? This is pettiness. We can be... Use the mic. Use the mic, sorry. We can be persuaded by a different opinion, we can agree to disagree, or we can force the point, and that means pettiness. Sometimes we have differences of opinions in our groups, and we may be right, but is it really worth me to tear you down to prove that I'm right? That's the question. Right. I could be right. You know, I've been married now 3 years, and I'm learning this. I'm learning just to say, okay. Yes. Is it worth me dying on that hill for? Is it worth a thing worth for me? You know. So, I tell my husband, we agree to disagree, or I just say, okay, and I keep on pushing because it doesn't stop my role, right? So Titus 3:9 warns us to avoid foolish controversies and genealogies and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these things are unprofitable and useless. So this is what we have to keep in mind when we are dealing with things. And in our organization, we have a lot of differences of opinions. A lot. We're different people. We see things differently. You see something this way, I see something that way. It may be a big deal to you, but not a big deal to me. So you have to just always stop and consider, is this worth the argument? Is this worth me tearing this sister or freighter down in order for me to win? Who wins in the end? Do I run my new member? We have a lot of new people in this room today. They've never been to a regional meeting. So our plenary session is going to be critical for them. We want them to walk away with a good feeling about the Southwest region, right? So if we get into it in our plenary sessions, they're going to walk away with a headache. They're going to say, I'm never coming to this again. I spent all this money to come to Hawaii for this. And this, we can say this about our national and our local meetings as well. We get up out the bed, we get dressed, we come to our local meetings, and we have to deal with the foolishness while we're here. It is pettiness, and it's really not worth it. Next one. Oh, you did already. So the next line. Let us be large in thought, in word, in deed. So, to be large in thought means to think bigger. Think beyond what you could see. Using our words carefully. Considering the implications of these words on others. And deeds means thinking about what we do and how it affects other people in the long run. So we need to be large in our thought. And that's going to say, well, you know what? It's really not about me. It's really about the bigger organization. It really is, well, if I push this issue, how is it going to make that soror feel? How is it going to make that freighter feel? So I have to be thinking big picture. I have to step back and say, well, what is the best thing for the organization? What is the best thing for the chapter? Is the best thing for the chapter for me to be correct? No, not necessarily. Could I not pull this soror to the side, pull this freighter to the side, and say what I need to say to them without demolishing them in front of everybody that's there? So I have to be bigger in my thinking. And I always say that this life that we live is not only about us. It is a bigger picture. when you're looking at the growth of your organization, the growth of your chapter, it's a bigger picture than that. We have dreams and visions, and we do vision casting about our organization, and we say that we want to bring in more members. But if what's happening in our chapters, what's happening in our region, what's happening on a national level is going to run people away, then we're not doing the big picture thinking, right? So we have to be large in our thoughts. Next slide. It says, let us be done with fault finding and leave off all self-seeking. Matthew 7:1 says, judge that ye not be judged. And fault finding is continual criticism. Continual criticism. Typically concerning trivial things. I just got to tell her. I just got to check a sister. I got to let her know that she don't talk to me like that. I got to do this. I got to do that. That's fault finding. Always nitpicking and picking apart every little thing that's done. It's fault finding. And it really is judging someone. It's your perception about what they're doing. I cannot tell you, and I have to go back to my marriage again, what I think my husband means is really not what he means. What he thinks I mean is not really what I mean. And we never really come together on it until we sit down and have a discussion about it, right? That's the only way that we're going to understand. So rather than to fault find and say that, well, this SWRC is doing this and she always wants this, we don't know until we talk to her. But that is fault finding. And the self-seeking part is where you're out for yourself. I want to look good, and it's all about me. But that takes away from everything that we're talking about in the sorority, right? We're service for humanity. It's not about you. It really isn't about you. I don't care how long you've been in the organization. I don't care how many degrees you have. It's really not about you. We are here to serve humanity. And it starts with serving us first, right? So if I can treat my SWRC with some love and some concern, then I'm going to boost up her opinion of us and of me and of the organization in general, right? Okay, so next slide, please. May we put away all pretense and meet each other face to face, without self-pity and without prejudice. And that's an attempt to make something that is not the case appear true. A false display of feelings, attitudes, or intentions. What do we say? The one thing I hear about our Supreme is that she's down to earth. A down to earth person, right? She's not putting up any pretense. What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get with me as well. I am Joanne, no matter wherever I'm talking in Washington, D.C. or in Compton, California. I'm still Joanne, okay? So it doesn't do any good for me to walk into the meeting trying to appear puffed up, trying to appear that I'm more than I am, when that's not the case. But we cannot take our mask off, in a sense. And so if we can't take our mask off, we're not showing the authentic person that we really are, correct? We just have this thing, and once we have a mask on, it is exhausting to keep that mask on all the time, isn't it? It's exhausting to keep up this pretense that you think that you're more than you really are. But the best kind of person is someone that is down to earth, someone that you can go to, someone that when you talk to them, they're going to tell you the truth, and they're not, they're meeting you face to face as to who they are. Don't we want to know people like that? Aren't you more comfortable around people like that? I know that I am. Next slide. So, may we never be hasty in judgment. Now, this is a big thing, and this is a thing that we all fight with. I fight with it because it's so easy to pass judgment on people. It is the easiest thing, In the Bible, it tells us to put on certain characteristics and put down other characteristics. So, when you feel that you want to judge somebody, you need to stop yourself. You need to say to yourself, what? MSP. Right? I'm not making a judgment about this sister because I can't. So how do you know when you're being judgmental? When you're avoiding that person, you walk into the meeting, you don't speak to them. You made a judgment. when you're making fun of them, when you're critiquing them at the meeting, they're talking and you're having a little sidebar talking about that person while they're talking. That's a judgment. Seeing their behavior as attention seeking, holding other negative thoughts about them and use language that may hurt their feelings. So when you're putting down members, all of us I wasn't raised on Robert's Rules of Order. Were you? I wasn't. That's a whole nother language that we have to learn, right? And it could be somewhat intimidating, right? You're afraid to raise your hand and say anything for fear that if I say the wrong thing, boom, they're all going to jump on me and correct me. So as a result of that, even though I have really great ideas, I won't say anything because I don't want to risk the judgment of the other people in the chapter that know more than me. Now, there may be people in your chapter that know more than you. Sure, but that doesn't mean that you have to keep your mouth shut, right? And our meeting should be such that you can go ahead and make your motion incorrectly, and after the meeting I'll say, sorry, next time you might want to do it this way. But the thing is not to embarrass that person while they're in the meeting. You're making judgment of them. So, how many people have been guilty of making judgments? We all have. All of us have been guilty of making judgments, and in fact, it is easier to do that than it is to be generous with your thoughts with that person and not make the judgment. Yeah, sometimes it's a reach, because I know some people are a piece of work. It is true. Some people got issues. That is the truth. They do. But let the God in you speak and stand for you versus what your natural nature wants to do. It's easier to sit back and get defensive and judge that person. But it takes some work not to do that. It takes some work to come in here and hug and kiss people that are not your favorite people in the world. It does. It's easier to ignore them. But you can upturn a person's attitude if you do that. I dare you to go hug somebody you don't like, and they're not going to know what to do with you. They're going to look at you like, whoa, what happened here? I'm used to her not talking to me. What, she was nice to me? How did that happen, right? So we cannot be hasty in judgment. Like the prayer says, may we never be hasty in judgment. Next one. You rate others on their appearance, constantly gossip about others, you form opinions about others based on what other people say, and that's a real bad one, because we get new people into our chapters and we say, girl, let me tell you about this one. Don't you listen to this one, and this one is this, and this one is this. This is what we do. I let people make their own opinion. If the person's crazy, they don't find out the person's crazy. They don't need me to say anything, right? Because that crazy person is going to show themselves. That's right. So you don't need me to tell you, watch out for that person, right? I don't need to tell you anything. When I get new employees coming to the floor, I never have to say, watch out for that nurse. That nurse is going to show themselves to that person. I don't have to say a word. I'm going to let them make their own opinion, all right? You assume people are lying without evidence. You rate people based on what they are, off the people they hang out with. You assume there's a clique when it's really no clique. You think that they don't want you there when that's all in your own head, okay? You leave no room for mistakes or forgiveness. And don't we all make mistakes? Can I just, like I said in the beginning of this thing, I said our colors are green and white, right? I made a mistake. It's okay. So you have to be generous with me and not crucify me for things that I may have said, things that I may have done. You are disgusted with people who disagree with you. Wow. How dare you? Of course I could disagree with you, but I can still love you and not agree with what you say. You maintain a negative outlook or mood. You always take other people's inventory. And this negativity, this thing, we just arrive at the regional meeting, ready for the negativity, ready for the petty. Okay, let me go in here and see what they did. How come they didn't do this? They only had black tea back there. They didn't have any herbal tea. There's so many things we could be negative about, I mean, when I saw the tea back there, I said, oh, I wish there was some herbal tea, but it's not worth me writing it on my evaluation. I have to be positive. I cannot live with a negative attitude. I need to be positive to go forward. So I try to keep a good mental positivity about me because that negativity will take me down. Next slide. So it says, so how can judging people affect them? So judging someone else can have similar effects to other forms of discrimination. And we all don't want to be discriminated against, right? But if you're judging me, you're not likely to pick me to be on a committee, right? If you're judging me, you're not likely to give me opportunities because of your judgment that you have for me. And that is just like discrimination. People that are being judged all the time feel isolated, ashamed, they feel misunderstood, criticized, or demeaned. And the judging can also result in people being less likely to talk about what they're going through or ask for the help that they need. Why? Because we've deemed them crazy. We've already put our judgment in on them and said that they are unworthy of any more generosity from me. They don't get any more chances from me because I've made the judgment. And this is the effect that judgment has on people. So I really admonish you all to take a new look at your chapter. Take a new look at the people that you've closed the book on and take a chance and open the door for them again. Next slide. And always be generous. That generosity. And the generosity is more than money. In fact, it has nothing to do with money. So a generous lifestyle is where you realize just how well God has provided for you that leads you in return to a desire to be generous for others. So when I look at all the ways that I have sinned, all the ways that I have messed up, all the mistakes I have made in my life, and all the second, third, fourth, fifth chances that I have ever gotten, in my life, how can I not give you that same? How can I not be as generous to you? I've lied and had to apologize. I've done things and had to apologize. So how come I can't extend that same generosity towards you? So a generous life is a life filled with our hands open. A generous lifestyle is an intentional way of reflecting a life that is touched by God. So that means that if you say something to me that upsets me, I can forgive you. Why? Because I was forgiven first, right? So how dare any of us stand in judgment with anybody unless you Jesus and led a sinless life? And nobody in this room has done that. If you have, I need to talk to you, okay? Because you've been left out the Bible, all right? So we need to fix some stuff if that's the case. But when you think about all the dirt in your past, how dare you not give me the same opportunities that you have been afforded? How dare you? Okay? So we have to be generous. Generosity means that if you talk to me crazy and I don't cuss you out, I'm being generous. I saved you from a beatdown. I'm being generous. When I allow you to talk to me crazy and I don't respond to you the same way you responded to me, I'm being generous. And the generosity is that thing, and you may look at that as a weakness, but it takes more strength to talk to somebody kindly that's spoken to you unkindly. Yeah. The Bible says we're supposed to pray for those that despitefully use us. That's what the word says. So no matter how bad you treat me, I'm supposed to treat you well. That's what the word says. So that's the generosity that I have, and I can cut you some slack for acting a fool around me and not give you what the world says you deserve. This generosity. And who's going to be the stronger because of that? It's me. And I find that the more generous you are in your lifestyle, the more that I'm able to forgive and keep it pushing, the better I feel. Yeah. Because I'm trying to do God's work in the front, and He's behind me working on my behalf, right? So He's going to lay out all the blessings for me, or I'm going to the preaching thing. I'm sorry about that. Next slide, please. So let us take time for all things. Make us to grow calm, serene, and gentle. Calm. A woosah moment. Be calm. So uptight. Be calm. not showing feelings or nervousness, anger, or other strong emotions, the absence of violent or confrontational activity within a place or group makes someone tranquil, quiet, and soothing. That's the person I want to sit next to in the meeting, a calm person. We get so excited. Sometimes the situations that we brought from our jobs, and sometimes we have this mentality that all my life I had to fight. So when I come to the chapter meeting, I got to fight there too. And we come to the meeting with our dukes up, just ready for the fight. And nobody's thinking about you, but you ready for the fight. We need to get an attitude of calm. And again, calmness is not our natural habitat. Because in this world with texts and emails and phones ringing and multiple priorities, it's anything but being calm, right? So you have to find some way of centering yourself, some way that when you leave your house, you are calm. Whether it's prayer or meditation before you walk out your door, asking the Lord to just, or whoever you pray to, asking the Lord to keep you calm, and understanding that all the gifts I have been given to me by Him, and I can't do any of this by myself. It really takes a lot of the anxiety and stress off of me. I really have nothing to worry about. He knows how the end of this meeting's going to be. He knows what's going to happen, so why am I stressing? So why am I not calm? So just cultivating an attitude of calmness, no matter what's going on. This is what we should be striving for. And like the prayer says, let us take time for all things. Make us, didn't say me, make us to grow calm. Asking the Lord in this prayer to make you calm. Let you be serene and let you be gentle. Responding to people with gentleness. It means a lot. And not responding to people the way that we think that we're supposed to respond to them. But that calmness and that serene nature, that serene personality is what we need. Next slide, please. This is a picture of our founder, Aileen Ewell. Doesn't she look serene on that picture, as blurry as it is? But she always like this lady that is just so beautiful. And she's just sitting there very calm, very serene. Calm, peaceful, and untroubled, unbothered by the things of this world that are coming at all of us every day. It takes something, you know, we can't achieve that on our own. We cannot achieve that on our own. But to have a sense of calmness is what we need. Next one. Gentle, having or showing a mild or kind temperament or character. So look at the kind of person that they're painting a picture of us in this prayer. Somebody that's untroubled, somebody that's unbothered, somebody that doesn't come to the meeting with their dukes up, ready to fight, ready to get their way, ready to push their way through. This is the kind of person that the prayer is describing. Somebody that's tender, somebody that's benign, I mean, not too upset, not too calm, just somebody that's okay. And you can approach me without me snapping at you. Very moderate in action. Nothing that is pushing them and being aggressive. You know, we were talking at the table about being very assertive. And you could be assertive without being mean, right? You could be assertive without being mean. There's ways to do it. And your tone has a lot to do with it. Because I could say things to you with such a smile on my face and such a tone in my voice that you'll never know you being read. Okay? You'll never know it because of the tone of my voice and my character as I'm talking to you. I can say it in such a nice way. I can say it so nice you're gonna give me a hug and you not even know you got read after that. All right? But it's something that we have to cultivate. It doesn't come naturally to us, these types of characteristics. Because this world tells us to do what? Get yours or be left behind. That's what the world says, right? So in order for us to step back and have this calm nature, it's kind of upsetting to the world. They don't know what to do with it. You know, they think that you're being weak, but you're not being weak. There's a way to get what you need without the aggressive behavior that we have. The next one. The next line is to teach us to put into action our better impulses, straightforward and unafraid. And so this implies that we need to be taught how to put in our better impulses. So you mean that there's impulses that are not good? Well, yeah, there are. And sometimes we have to learn how to be right. Sometimes we have to learn how to speak to people. And you'll see this, if you've been working any length of time, I'm sure you've done some type of personality evaluations, and they tell you what your personality type is and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes people say, well, I'm just a go-getter, and I don't have time. Like, if you're a type A person, like, I'm a type A person, okay? And I'm like, that's how I am, okay? I don't like a lot of frivolous talk, you know, just tell me what I need. But I realize with that type of personality that can come across as being very aggressive sometimes to people. So better than me saying, well, look, this is Joanne, this is just the way I am, you got to get with it, I can't say that. Not if I want to be successful in my career, not if I want to go forward, not if I want other opportunities. I had to learn how to soften my tone when I'm talking to people. I have to learn that when I'm in a sorority meeting to watch the look on my face, because your face, and people, you know, I'm not the basilisk, but I guess I'm what you would call an informal leader. And people will tend to just look at me during the meeting like, what Joanne gonna think, you know? And I have to really struggle to keep a good look on my face sometimes based on some things that are happening in our meeting. And I can't let it be shown that what is happening is irritating me or anything like that. So it's really something that you have to be taught. All right, so the verse in the prayer implies that to use our better impulses takes courage on our part. It takes courage not to respond in kind. It takes courage to be mild to someone that's coming at you very aggressive, right? So it's so easy to hate, but it takes strength to be kind and gentle. Negativity is easy. Negativity is where we live, okay? Negativity is our house, all right? It's so easy to go there. It's so easy to complain, but it takes work to say something positive. It takes work to find something positive to say sometimes, right? It's a Southern term that people say, oh, just bless her heart. You know, when the person's being ridiculous, bless her heart. You know, that's something to say. It's better than saying something that's very negative, right? So, but it takes work, and we need to learn how to respond to people. We need to learn about how we come across. If you don't know how you come across, go to a good friend, somebody you trust, and ask them about your own behavior. How do you think, when I talk to people, do you think that I come across a certain way? What do you think? And I'm constantly evaluating and reevaluating my tone, because I know that when I get very anxious or stressed, I can come across really sharp. I know that I can. You know, my husband has told me that on multiple occasions. You know, he's told me that your tone. So I have to really, almost have to rehearse in my mind what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it before it comes out. And so you have to do that over and over again until it becomes a part of you, until you can respond to somebody in a nice, calm way. But a lot of us, we don't really understand, especially if we type 1 people. Because type 1 people, we don't have no time. We don't have no time to be explaining things to you, okay? But we have to take the time, right? Type 1's in the room, you know what I'm saying, right? We have to take the time to back up and understand that everybody is not like us. Everybody can't. Everybody doesn't process the same way. Everybody doesn't see things the same way. So I have to understand that you process this way and I process that way. So what can I do to bring it together? Because what I want out of all of this is effective communication, right? So if my tone of my voice or the words that I'm using is a block to that person receiving my communication, then who has the responsibility to change? I do, okay? Next slide, please. Grant may we that we may realize that it's the little things in life that create differences, that in the big things of life we are as one. Solomon 2:15 says, catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards that are in bloom. So it's those little things that can take something as beautiful as a vineyard and ruin it. So, in the big things of life, we are all human beings. We all have gone to school. We all have achieved a certain level of education. We all have jobs. Well, all of us may or may not be married. We all have children. We want the same things. And in those things, we are the same. And those are the things that we need to pay attention to. All right? So is it worth me messing up and destroying my whole chapter just so I can get what I want to get done? Is it worth it when I look at the big picture of things? In this life, we're all as one. Nobody's better than the other one. There's no seniority or tenure in Chi Eta Phi that lets me treat you badly. There's no, I don't know, I checked the bylaws. There's nothing in there that says in the bylaws because you've been a member for 50 years that you get to talk to me like I'm crazy. It doesn't, there's nothing in there, right? It doesn't say that. So we are one. We are all equal in this organization. So sometimes we think because we know more than the next person that gives us certain status, but not necessarily. It doesn't. We are all one person. Next slide. And oh Lord God, let us forget not to be kind. And kindness is what? The quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. Going out of your way to do something that benefits someone else. So kindness is being a breath of fresh air to someone else when they feel like they are suffocating. To be kind. To be a kind person. Friendly person. Generous with their time, generous with their talents, going out of their way to do something that's going to benefit someone else, not doing things that's only going to benefit you so you can be right. You might be right, but is it going to kill you? Is it going to kill you to let that person have the win? You're still right when it's all over, and that person's going to realize that you're right later on. But is it that important? Or can we just say, okay? Can we say okay? Let me hear you say it. Okay. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. It really is. Next slide, please. So now that you know, what are you going to do? How will your behavior change? How can this information change the trajectory of your chapter? And how can this information change the trajectory of the organization? I would just like for a couple of people to stand and just say, how can this information change your behavior or change the behavior of your chapter? What could you see happening? Come on. I see Linda Bell, come on.
I would say that me being positive will definitely be infectious amongst the chapter overall, and I'll be that change agent within the chapter to show them what right does look like.
She said she could be the change agent in her chapter. That's excellent, because we need those kind of people to role model, so we know that this is the expected behavior in our chapter by somebody showing kindness. Yes, sir. Oh, great. She just said February 15th. She's a new member. And here she is at regional meeting. Fabulous.
Absolutely love what I see. People I've met. Absolutely love it. This slide presentation, you just excuse me, I'm sitting here having faith. So I'm a huge A-type personality. And so I have to really learn to work on that. I hear all the time, you're strong, you're this, you're that. I don't see it, but I hear from a lot of people. My dad, he says, you know, you're such an A-type. I don't see it. Yeah. I just really don't. But this is the way it should be. And I'm just listening to you, what you're saying, and I'm learning so much. I'm like, I'm like, oh my God. But it's good to see. I absolutely love the prayer. I love the prayer. And the history behind it, just
Thank you.
But you're really making me, God, really just see some things about me that I may not want to.
Yeah.
But
see, that's how it starts. You know, I think all change starts with a self-reflection. And if you cannot see yourself, how can you change? You know, so if people have been telling you you're this or you're that in the past, then, you know, they're probably not lying. That's probably really you. You know, and a lot of times we really can't see how we come across. Anybody else, how can you see this information changing your own personal behavior, or changing your chapter, or changing Chi Phi nationally? Sora Robinson, and then I'm in the back here.
Well, I'm like A was it some other time. What resonated with me is my nonverbals. My people say I clearly what I'm feeling on my face, and I don't want that to be. So I need you guys to look at my face to make sure if I'm making any type of nonverbals like I discussed. And I don't see myself when I'm doing that, and I'm more assertive too. It's like, look, I ain't got time for all that stuff to sing ABC. I don't get story put together something. So I'm learning how to be more patient with myself, so I can edify the listener who's around me. But I don't want to come off with nonverbals to say, oh, he's not interested or it's frustrating. So that's my question.
Okay, Sora in the back, and then you.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Elaine Martin, and I'm from the Chi Phi chapter. And I don't know if anyone answered this, but I didn't get to hear all of it. But what I really, really, really like about the prayer is I think that your question about how can this information change the trajectory of your chapter, we love each other. We are very social, but we need to step it up in our professional foundation. And I think that this will help us because it takes away, I mean, it's great to socialize and love your sisters, but we want to be known as professionals as well. So I think this to focus on this and to pick something that we can change about ourselves will push us over to be more professional and still social, but more professional.
Thank you. All right, Sora.
My name is Kathy Noble. I am from Iota Ada chapter Colorado Springs, and this is my first regional. So I'm happy to be here. I just want to say she is so much like me in terms of wearing how I feel on my face, because I'm always the one trying to do things and get things done. But I want to say when I learned about endorphins, and I just want to share it with everyone, when you smile, you release endorphins from your brain that actually rejuvenate you. So even if you're not, when you're feeling, I just want to share this, when you're feeling at your worst, try to smile. And it will release those endorphins that will encourage you to do better. So I do that for myself. I try to do the breathing 4 to 7 breaths and smile. And everyone says, wow, how do you smile? Why do you smile so much? Because I'm doing this for myself.
So, you know, thank you all for your responses. Every last one of them were right on. It really takes thought to be kind. You would think that it doesn't, but it really does. Because being unkind is our natural state, okay? Being unkind is our natural state, and it really takes some time to learn about ourselves. And, you know, those of you that are first-time attendees, those of you who are relatively new to your chapters, let me just say this, that you're going to go back to your chapter meetings, and you're going to see behaviors that don't line up with what we talked about today. But like Mia said, you can be a change agent. And I really implore you not to be disgusted with the behavior that you see. I implore you to do that. If I was going to do that, then I probably wouldn't be a member of Chi Phi today. You know, but I remember when I was a new grad RN, and I was my very first day on the floor. I was working day shift, and this lady came in on the evening shift. And she, you know, back in the day, they used to have your assignments in a big binder that they would have in a nurse's station. And so she walks over, she looks at the big binder, and she slams it down on the desk, and she says, I want my same assignment. And I looked at her and I said to myself, I will never do that. I will never respond like that in the nurse's station. Never. And I never did. Why? Because I'm really aware of the perception of outsiders on us and how they see us respond. So if I want a good name for my unit, a good name for my chapter, a good name for my region, I am never going to act out that way because I don't want to bring a bad look up on the region. And so although we are all Qaeda 5, we are Southwest Region, okay? We are Southwest Region, and I want Southwest Region to look great. I want Southwest Region to look good. So for this reason, I'm gonna keep my behavior in check, right? Because I don't want to bring a bad look on the region. So it's the same thing with my chapter, it's the same thing with my family, it's the same thing with my church. Whatever I'm involved in, I want to shed the best light on it. That's just how I am. So it takes some work, and I think that's the end of my presentation. I think the next one is references. So thank you all very much. Lunch is on your own, and look at your schedule, and we're going to we're going to come back together in this room at what time? I don't have the schedule in front of me. 1:30. 1:30 back in this room for the next session. If you have any questions, I'm available for questions, and thank you very much. Thank you.